I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, April the 30th, where we've got big problems. They've got a shortage of these Impossible Burgers. And I'm not kidding. I don't know if you guys saw the article, but there was an article out on the internet that was talking about the Impossible Burger and the popularity of it. Apparently there's a lot of high-end restaurants in New York City and some of the big high population areas that are using it. They talked about Burger King, and we talked about that a while back whenever we burned the cardboard crown on the report here. But Burger King was only in the St. Louis area. That's where they unveiled that. But now, due to the success of that, they are expanding it to 7,000 locations. And the product was already in about 7,000 restaurants worldwide. So it's a real deal, and I just don't know if the powers that be are paying enough attention to it. I've got a fairly good following on this report, and I hope you people will watch this, take it seriously, and go on with it. But this Impossible Burger, people seem to like it. The ones that want to do that, they don't so much like the Beyond Burger or the Beyond Meat, but they don't think that's a good replacement for it. But you know, I just think that we need to get out there. We need to find out what growth promotants are in this product to get them to do it. They're going to try to expand production of this. They've got 2 shifts now. They're going to 3 and trying to get a second line going. And I think we need to throw a bone to some of these places like Outback Steakhouse or for now McDonald's, but places that are advertising the fact that they're only using real beef. And we just need to get a little more proactive on this deal. Let's look at the board on Monday. You know, we had such a horrible week last week, and the markets were all down hard. We knew we were going to be starting out kind of on the downside this week, especially on your feeder cattle markets. But your April live cattle actually closed up 22 cents on Monday at 124.77. June was off 25 cents at 114.80. May feeder cattle down 55 cents, and they've lost a ton at 143.40. August down 177 at 151.07. Your weighted average on last week's disappointing and dismal fat cattle trade, 95,400 head in your 5 area feeding region, which is not a bad movement for this year, but that compares to a year ago volume of 125,800. And I tell you people, we continue to just lose more and more of this negotiated trade. But your live sales in the 5 area feeding region stretch from 122 all the way up to 132. What a range in there, guys. But mostly from 125 to 128. In the Southern Plains is mostly 125, 126. Up in the Northern Plains, 127, 128. But that was $2 lower for the most part. But your weighted average live steer price ended up for the week 126.69. That was down $1.73 compared to the previous week's weighted average. On dress steers, wide range there too, from $2 even up to $2.08. And of course those lowest prices are the last ones that were posted, but mostly $2.05 to $2.06. Now if the $2.05 to $2.06, which was mostly reported as the glut of the movement, that would have only been $2 lower, but your weighted average on dress steers was $204.58, down $3.18 on the weighted average compared to the previous week. And that's because there was a lot of sell-off late in the week last week, sub 205, and like I said, as low as $2 even, and that is a ton. But nationwide, your negotiated sales, 106,400 head. And about 30% of those, or 32,300 head of those, for 15 to 30 day delivery. And I tell you what, it is not looking good for your cash fat cattle market down the line. We knew it was going to be tough. We know we got a lot of market ready cattle coming this summer whenever it gets to the worst part. I know we have improved demand as far as grilling and stuff, but when you get to the dog days of the summer, it really peters off. And so they are kind of setting this thing up to drag it way down, and including on the forward contracts. This is just last week, new signed forward contracts for forward delivery. We've got for June, 27,200 head of new contracts were written last week. July, 49,400 head, and I'm talking about, head counts for July. And August, 40,100 head. But a lot of guys, I tell you what, they didn't like that rug being pulled out from them last week. They saw how tough it is to kind of hold the market on the cash side there, and they just they got a little bit scared, and they decided to try to shore up the losses here going down towards the summer months. But let's look at your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on Cattle Market Central based on the 800-pound steer. Late in the day on Monday, sitting at 143.53, down 36 cents from the end of last week. Not too awful bad, but your trends are bad because if you remember a week ago, your high volume feeder cattle auctions were actually higher a week ago because it was before things started crumbling and we felt the earth giving way underneath us in this market. So last Monday things were still going pretty good after that big volume fat cattle trade that we had the week before. But Oklahoma City, 9,500 head. Now these trends are sharply lower, but they're just catching up with your mid to late week sales last week. Feeder steers $6 to $7 lower. Feeder heifers $3 to $6 lower. That's where your heifers and steers kind of shore back together. So when the market goes down, because just like your heifers don't go up quite as much in your trends as the steers, they don't go down quite as much either. Calves were not well tested, had a lower undertone on those that were on hand. They did note that a lot of the calves are now pretty much all new crop soft calves, not many old crop lightweights left. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 5,000 head. Feeder cattle there similar, $4 to $7 lower. Calves were kind of unevenly steady. Let's look at some of your big sales around. Faith Livestock Commission in Faith, South Dakota. You don't get this report anywhere else but here on Cattle Market Central. You look at the weighted averages there, about 2,800 head, and I'll give you some of the best tested weights and the weighted average prices on those. 5-weight steers, 164 head of them, average 555 at 173.53. Not too many on the 6 weights. The 7 weights had 208 head of those on the 7-weight steers, average 731 at 155.81. And go all the way up to the 9-weight steers, which sold pretty good. 184 head of 9-weight steers, average 941 at 138.86. Another big sale, DV auction sale. Russell Livestock Market in Russell, Iowa. Big sales. Didn't have much, they're kind of every other week now this time of year. 2 weeks ago they had an awful good sale, over 6,000 head. Had a good sale here on Monday. And Russell Livestock Market, you look at the Cattle Market Central market report, and I'm going to give you the trends from 2 weeks ago on the different weights. But 476 head of 5-weight steers, average 555, 172.81. That's only about 50 cents lower than 2 weeks ago. 525 head of them on the 6 weights, average 630 at 159.54. That was pretty much straight up $6 lower on that weighted average on your 6 weights. 490 head of 7 weights, average 741 at 151.17. That's an awful good weighted average on 7 weights, and just off $3, which you saw some of those other trends was sure a lot more sharply than that. 810 head of 8-weight steers. This is a big one. Averaged 854 pounds and a weighted average price of 140.18, and that's just steady to a pinch lower than what they were 2 weeks ago. I'm going to give you an individual quote from a market I've never talked about before. Showed up on Cattle Market Central, an automated market report, and a pretty impressive string of cattle. Headwaters Livestock from Three Forks, Montana. 170 head of 775-pound steers bring 142 1/4 way up there in Montana. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.